We'll go into the topic relocating to Canada within 90 days. And 90 days, is it possible to come to Canada within 90 days? It's possible. It's possible through the study route. It's possible through the visiting visa route. It's also a little bit possible through the work route. And I'm going to explain how this is possible. Now, I will start with the study route. With the study route, there are some schools you can easily get admission. They give you admission offer within the next 10 days or within the next 5 days if you just submit your application. They have a fast turnaround time in issuing admissions offer. And if you are not aware, Canada has put in some announcements concerning coming to study in Canada, which means if you're coming to study at the PGD level, you might not likely come with your family, but if you are single, you can come and study at the PGD level. It has no impact on you. But if you have family and you want your family members to be part of your study journey, and you want them to be in Canada with you while you study, it means you have to go for an MBA or a PhD or any professional course in nursing and law. Any of these two professional courses, then your family is eligible to apply for a study visa with you. Now, there are some schools, like I said earlier, that can issue admissions offer within 5 days, within 10 days. You get your admission offer. Especially if you're come for a master's, schools like University Canada West, schools like International Business University in Ontario, they issue admission offers within 5 days or within 10 days. Now you get your admission offer maybe for a master's program and you have your proof of funds ready, you can actually apply. The processing time varies, but with current trends, within 30 days to 45 days, you should be able to know the status of your visa application to Canada. Now, when it comes to packaging your study visa application, you have to be very careful. It's not like the UK where you just, source for funds, put in your account for 28 days after you get your certificate of COS. After you get is it COS they call it? There's a name they call it, CAS, not COS, CAS. After you get your CAS, you put your money in your account. Within 2 weeks, if you go for the expedited one, or within 1 week, you get your visa. That's for the UK. But for Canada, it doesn't work like that. You need certain documents to be able to convince the visa officers that you are an eligible candidate for a study visa and that you will be able to return back to your country. And sometimes a lot of people think it's just dumping documents or dumping money in the account and then submitting your application and hoping that you will get the visa approved. It doesn't really work like that. So some of the documents that you would need that could lead to a successful application includes submitting documents that has to do with your identity, submitting documents that has to do with your employment. If you are not employed, if you're a business person, you have to submit your CAC document. So if you're a business person and you don't have your business registered, it is important you have your business registered because you cannot just apply to Canada and say you're a business person without submitting your business registration document. So you have to submit either your proof of employment or your proof of business registration. That shows to the visa officer that you are well established in your country, you have employment. Now, there are some people who are young, who just finished school, they don't have these documents. They are not employed, they don't have business registration documents. Such category of people, especially if they are 22 years and below, they can submit their parents' proof of employment or proof of business registration document, which covers for their own employment. Because, of course, they know that young people who just graduated from university coming to do masters might not necessarily have a job offer. But if you are 23 years and above, they're expecting that you must have at least gotten a job offer or you have a business. So these documents are very important. The next document that I will talk about that can help you get an approval if you submit your study visa application is your proof of funds. Now, the proof of funds is very critical because with Canada, they like to know the source of your funds for your education in Canada. So it's not just saying you get admission and then if the tuition fee says your tuition fee for maybe 1 year, for a 1 year program is $18,000 and you pay first semester, you have to show the balance of your tuition And then you also have to show money for your living expense. And money for living expense is about 20,000 Canadian dollars now. So you combine the outstanding tuition plus money for your living expense plus money for your flight tickets. They want to see these three things. So you pay your tuition. Let's say you pay your tuition deposit of 8,000. The remaining 8,000, you have to show it. 20,000 for your annual living expense, you have to show it. And then money for your flight ticket, you have to show it. So, but what I do advise people is don't just show the exact amount, show at least excess, maybe an excess of 5,000 Canadian dollars on top the amount that you're supposed to show. That way it tells the visa officer that you are not just gathering all your financial resources or your financial savings to come and study, because they will be saying you have a cheaper option back in Nigeria. Why are you scraping all your resources to come and study? That's one concerning proof of funds. Now, the other part concerning proof of funds is that you don't just put money in your account, lump sum deposit in your account and present your statement. Canada likes to see the source of where the money is coming from. So if you're looking at sourcing from money from different people to push to make up your proof of funds to show to the visa officers, you also have to explain where the source is coming from. And you don't just give anyhow explanation. You have to give explanations like probably you sold a property, or probably it's a gift from your parents, or maybe it's a bonus from your employer. All these things, you have to mention them and then also provide backup documents to support why you have lump sum deposit. So I'm going to explain again. Let's say in your place of work, you're earning about maybe 150,000 Naira per month, and then you are going to show a 20 million Naira proof of funds in your account as your proof of funds. Now, maybe 5 million came from your friend, another 5 million came from your brother, another 5 million came from maybe your parents. You have to explain these three monies that just entered your account, because they'll look at your pay slips, they'll look at your employment income, they'll be wondering how were you able to raise this huge amount of money within the short space of time. So you just have to explain that. Then somebody ask a question, is it possible to use student loan? Yes, it's possible to use student loan. There are companies that allow student loans like Empower. There's another company name that's not coming to my head, but it's possible to use student loan. You can go to your bank. If your bank gives out student loan, you can take student loan and you explain that your education is funded by student loan. You could also get scholarships as well. Recently, one of my clients got a scholarship from NDDC. She got a $40,000 scholarship, and that was the only thing. She didn't present any bank statement. She just presented that scholarship letter from NDDC, and her visa was approved. So, yeah, if you know you don't have the funds, you can look for scholarships from organizations, individual organizations. There are lots of organizations in Nigeria that give scholarship, not just organizations abroad or schools abroad. If you want to look for scholarship, it's possible to look for scholarship as well. So this is what you need to show the visa officer when it comes to proof of funds. Now, when it comes to proof of your ties back to your home country, because you have to demonstrate to the visa officer that after you come to study in Canada, you have what it takes to take you back to your home country. Some people don't have anything to show. They have only their family members. Let's say you have your siblings who are still in Nigeria. You can mention your siblings' name. You can provide their birth certificate or their driver's license to show that your siblings are in Nigeria. If you have assets like a piece of land, you can show that you have assets such as a piece of land. The documents, the landed document, you have to show that, or valuation of the land itself, you also have to show that as part of your assets. If you have a property, if you have building, you can show building as well. You can, if you have tenants living in your building, you can show your lease agreement as part of your documents. If you have a car, you can show that you have a car as well. Those are your assets. If you don't have any of these things, let's say you don't have any assets at all, like I mentioned earlier, you can demonstrate that your family members are in Nigeria and you will return back to Nigeria because of your family members. So these are the three things they look out for when it comes to visa applications. how established you are in your country. That's your employment. If you are employed, if you're not employed, like I said, it depends on your age bracket. If you are from 25 and above, you need to show that you're employed. If you cannot show that you're employed, you have to show maybe some form of side hustles. If you've been doing side hustles, if you're a freelancer, anything that shows that you are doing something to generate income for you, you need to show that you're established economically. That's number one. Number two is your proof of funds. It has to be properly documented. Any lump sum deposit has to be explained. Then number three is your proof of your ties back to Nigeria. So once you present all these documents to the visa office or submit your application online, you should expect a decision within 30 to 45 days, at most 3 months, because we've seen cases where applications can take up to 3 months before you get an approval. So if you start your admission, get it within 10 days, within the next 20 days, you should be able to package your application documents and then submit. Another thing is your SOP. So a lot of people do not really know how to communicate why they are coming to school in Canada. You have to draft a convincing SOP. That way you tell the visa officer why you chose the program you're coming to study, why you feel Canada is the best country to come and study, what that particular course will do for you. Let's say you study the program and there is no way for you to gain a permanent residency status after your studies and you want to return back to Nigeria. What will you use that particular course to do? Will you use it to enhance your employment, or will you use it to enhance your business? You have to convince them. Now, if you're switching courses, you have to be very careful. In switching courses, you have to demonstrate why you intend to switch courses and how that course will be relevant to you in your future career. So that is how you explain your information on your SOP and submit your application, and keep your fingers crossed that it comes out positive. So that is it for the study route. The topic is relocating to Canada within 90 days. The study route is a sure way of relocating to Canada within 90 days. The other route is the visiting visa. Visiting visa is quite straightforward. If you have somebody in Canada that can send you a letter of invitation, if you have a friend or a family member that can send you a letter of invitation, go ahead and ask the person to send you a letter of invitation. But if you don't have anybody, you can actually come for tourism or for conference or for exhibitions or for workshops or anything that has to do with your industry. Let's say you are a tech person, you are an IT expert in your home country. There are tech conferences that are going on currently in Canada. There's one called Coalition. I think they did it recently, or they're about to do it. I don't know whether they've done it yet. But you register for such conferences, they give you an invitation, you submit such invitation letters to the embassy with your proof of funds. Now, with visiting visa, you don't need to show a lot of things. What you need to show is your proof of funds and your proof of ties back to Nigeria. And then you explain what you're coming to do. If you're coming for conference, you mentioned that you're coming to attend a conference. This is your conference invitation letter, and this is your proof of funds. Maybe I usually recommend that people have as much as 10,000 Canadian dollars equivalent to show as proof of funds. That should cover for your accommodation and that should cover for your flight tickets. So with that, you should also show any accommodation that you've booked. You can book accommodation and book your flight tickets, not pay for your flight ticket, just do the booking and present these documents. And then for your proof of ties, the same ties that I mentioned for the study visa is what you should also show for your visiting visa. If you have employment back, you mentioned that you're still employed, you go back to your country to maintain your employment. If you have your business, you mentioned that you have your registered business. Of course, you have to show proof of your registered business documents. And then if you have any physical assets, you show these documents as proof of your ties back to Nigeria. Now, with the visiting visa, there are two portals. The same thing with the study visa as well. There's the old portal that you can use in submitting your application, and there's also the new portal as well. With the new portal, they mentioned that within 30 days, they will make a decision. But I know with Canada, anything Canada, their processing timeline differs according to individual. If it could work for somebody to get their approval within 9 days, some other persons, they have to wait for maybe like 30 days or 40 days or 50 days before they can get their approval. So for visiting visa, processing timeline differs from country to country. If you check the Canadian website or processing timeline for visiting visa from Nigeria, you'll be seeing something as much as 100 days or 200 days. But don't follow that processing timeline on their website. Go ahead and submit your application. You could get your visitor's visa approved within 10 days or 20 days or 30 days. So I talked about coming to Canada as a visitor, maybe coming for a conference if you don't have anybody. The next thing is coming for tourism. If you just want to come tour the place, that means you have to draw up an itinerary of the places you intend to visit. You're not coming for conference, you just want to come and visit, maybe go to the CN Tower, maybe go to Banff in Alberta, maybe go to British Columbia, maybe to go to Canada Wonderland. You have to look at all the tourist sites in all of these places. I would say it is better to stick to one province if you want to tour. Stick to one province because it's quite expensive moving from within Canada from one location to another. Let's say you want to move from Ontario to BC. It's quite expensive buying flight tickets moving from one to another. So stick with your tourism in one particular location. If you want to visit British Columbia, look out for all the tourist sites in British Columbia and draw up an itinerary of your visit to BC. Okay, today I'll visit A, tomorrow I'll visit B, next tomorrow I'll visit C. Just draw up your itinerary like that. And then same thing with your proof of funds, which I said minimum is 10K card, and then also your proof of ties to your home country, and submit your application and you could get approved. So for visiting visa, you could say you're coming for tourism, or you could say you're coming to spend holiday. Maybe you're coming to spend Christmas holiday or spend Easter holiday and all of that. You could mention those things in your application. That is if you don't have anybody inviting you to come and visit Canada. So that's one. Processing timeline within 90 days. It's possible to get a decision, but sometimes it extends beyond 90 days. So it's subject to how they prioritize the approvals or how they prioritize the applications for visiting visas. So that is for visiting visa. Then for work visas, 90 days is possible, but sometimes it's also not possible. The reason why I say it's possible is because there are some people who get their jobs within a split second. I've had a client like that. We just had maybe a conversation, maybe 2 days earlier on, and then by the third day, she had gotten a job offer. She was based in the UK, and she was able to get a job offer in Canada that brought her in. So her job offer or her job search just took less than 1 week, and she got a job offer. So it's possible to get such job offers that can bring you to Canada within 90 days. Once you get the job offer, there are two types of job offer you can get. One that has to do with LMIA. If you don't know what LMIA is Labor Market Impact Assessment. It's a document that tells you that wants to apply that you have an approved document from your employer and the government of Canada that will make you eligible to apply for work permit. Now, employers apply for LMIA by advertising on the Government of Canada Job Bank website. They advertise the jobs for 30 days. If they don't see any Canadian that will take the job offer, if they don't see any permanent resident, if they don't see any temporary resident that will take the job offer, they have the right to offer that job offer to somebody outside Canada. So once they do that, you get your employment offer plus the LMIA document, and then you apply for your work permit. Depending on the industry. Now, if you get a job offer in the healthcare industry, you have an expedited application process. They will approve the application within the shortest possible time. If you get a job offer in the agriculture industry, you also have an expedited application process. You get your approval within record time. Same thing with the construction industry. These three industries I mentioned, healthcare, agriculture, construction. These three industries, they are highly in demand in Canada, and the government is approving visas for this group of people faster than any other category of work permit. So if you get a job offer, for you to apply for your visa, what you need is the LMIA document, the employment offer, the employment contract, and then you also need proof of funds. People be asking, but I got a job offer, why do I need to show proof of funds? Yes, you need to show proof of funds because when you come into Canada, you will not start earning immediately because you have to settle. You have to work for some period before they pay you salaries. So you need money to be able to rent a space. You need money to eat. You need money to pay for your flight ticket. You need money for all these miscellaneous things. So you need to show proof of funds. Now, you'll be asking, how much do you need to show proof of funds? It's to show as proof of funds. It's actually subjective. It is subjective in the sense that you need to gauge how much you might likely spend for the next 3 to 6 months, and then put that money together and show as proof of funds. I usually recommend as from 7,000 to 10,000 Canadian dollars and above if you get a job offer. I also need to mention that you have to be very careful because there are lots of scam job offers that happens in Canada. There are lots of fake LMIA, lots of, what do you call it now? Lots of fake things going on. So you have to be very careful during your job search. You have to do your due diligence and make sure that the employer that is hiring you is actually a legit employer hiring you to come and work in Canada. In most cases, the employer is supposed to take care of your flight ticket. They're supposed to give you money to pay for your flight ticket. They're supposed to pay for accommodation for you for the first few days when you come to Canada. But when it comes to the visa application itself, you still have to show proof of funds. Even if your employer will take care of these things, you still need to show money that you would use to sort yourself out maybe for the first 1 or 2 weeks. And then I also need to mention that there's another type of job offer. That one is LMIA exempt. Now, LMIA exempt is for mostly religious workers, people who are coming to Canada to do religious work, church work, maybe mosque work and all of that, that has to impact the spiritual life of the people they are coming to work for. Those group of job offers are LMIA exempt. It means you don't need any official document from the government of Canada to apply. The only thing you need is your employment offer from probably the church or the mosque or the NGO. An NGO, if you get a job offer from an NGO, it's possible. And then there's something called LMIA exempt number. The employer is supposed to give you that number, and then you use it to apply for your work permit. So this is more or less a summary of how you can relocate to Canada within 90 days. The study route, I talked about it and the documents you need. The visiting visa route, I also talked about it and the documents you need. And then the work route, I also talked about it and the documents that you need. For the work route, you still also need to show proof of ties to your home country, because if you don't show proof of ties to your home country, they might reject your application as well. So it doesn't matter if you get a job offer, you still need to show that you have what it takes to return back to your country after working and not just remain in Canada and become stranded. So that's a summary of how you can relocate to Canada within 90 days. It's possible if you start immediately, if you don't waste time in any of these pathways. But the one I would warn you, I would like kind of ask that you exercise caution more is the work visa route. The work visa route is a very sensitive route, and I would say you should exercise more caution and do more due diligence before you actually. What people do is that they try to look for recruiters to help them get a job offer. They pay recruiters money. I discourage that. I prefer that you search for the job yourself. Do the job search yourself. Do the due diligence yourself. That way you would know that nobody is cheating you. And if any employer is beginning to ask you for money, I would say you should run away from such employers. Another thing you should know about the work visa route is that sometimes most of these employers, they don't know how the immigration thing works, and they shy away from it because it's stressful to them. So you have to be in a position to understand how the immigration thing works. If you're looking for, let's say, a construction job, you should be in a position to explain to them that, look, with construction, the processing timeline for visa is very, very fast because they are looking for construction workers. You should be in a position to explain these things to them. And then if they are convinced, they can hire you, and then you can go ahead and apply for your visa. So this is a summary of what it takes to come to Canada within 90 days as a temporary resident. And I think it's time for me to take your questions. If you have any questions that you feel should be responded to, I think it's time for me. I don't know, should I look at the chats and answer the questions, or would you call the questions out?
That's very fine. You've given us so much. You've said you've really broken the steps down.
Okay.
I appreciate that. Nothing has been left to be vague. But I know people will have questions. So you can take the questions from the chat box as well. And for those who would like to, personally ask you that questions, they could indicate, and then I'd give them the mic so that they can ask you personally. I also have questions that I would like to ask, but I'd like for you to take maybe 1 or 2 questions from the chat box, and then we move on to my own questions.
Okay, so one question, one person is asking, I hope I don't miss out any question because it's like there are so many things. What options are available for someone above 40 years with an MSc already? So if you have a master's already, you still can come and study in Canada. You still can come and study in terms of options that are available. You can do another master's program if you want to come with your family, or if you want to come alone, you come and do a PhD. It's possible to come do another master's again, or if you want to go on a higher grade, it's possible to do a PhD. Now, with most of the PhDs, they are mostly research-based PhDs. You hardly get thesis-based PhDs. And because they are research-based PhDs, you have to look for a supervisor first to discuss their research options. And then if they accept you, that is when you apply for your PhD admission. So you could look at the PhD option, or you could come for another master's. If you want to come as a permanent resident, I would say it's going to be a thorough assessment of your entire profile. I don't think we have enough time for me to be able to assess you individually to tell you which immigration or which permanent residence immigration options are suitable for you. So that's the first question. For the second question, is it possible to apply for study visa when the proof of funds is not ready and other documents are ready? How true? No, it's not possible. It's not possible to apply for your study visa when your proof of funds is not ready. The proof of funds is the critical document. That's what tells the visa officer that you're ready. And the reason why your money has to be ready before submission is because it's quite competitive now coming to study in Canada. And because they've put a cap on the number of students they want about 360,000 students. It means it is people who are serious in coming, people who have paid a tuition deposit, people who are showing that they have enough money to take care of themselves without resorting to any of the government benefits like going to the food bank to go and, get food or, get groceries or all of that. Those are the people that they will prioritize. So you need to show that your proof of funds is in excess of the requirement before you apply for your study visa. Okay, so express entry. For now, we are talking about relocating within 90 days. We are not talking about express entry. If we were talking about express entry, I would have talked about express entry extensively. Say I don't want to try visiting visa. It's actually useless because I traveled to Canada with visiting visa with the hope of converting, no way to do anything. I was totally useless in Canada. I had to come back to Nigeria. Oh, so sorry about that. So this is it. What I usually tell people, if you're coming to Canada as a visitor, before you come, don't just come like that. You have to do the groundwork from where you are. You have to do enough groundwork before you leave. What I mean by groundwork is that you have to start contacting and connecting with employers who are looking for people. You have to start pushing your resumes out. You have to start communicating with them, calling them, sending emails, following up with them, using your network of connections within Canada to see if they can connect you with people who are looking for workers. That way, until you get a traction, if there is no lead, if there is nobody responding to your emails, nobody's answering you, nobody's telling you, okay, come into Canada. When you come, give us a call. Then don't buy your flight tickets to start coming, hoping to convert from visiting visa to work permit. A lot of people made that mistake of just apply for visiting visa, come, and then you get a job offer and then convert to work permit. It doesn't work like that. It's not straightforward because even Canadians themselves are looking for work. So you have to do the groundwork back where you are. After submitting your visa application, you have to start connecting with employers on almost all the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the social media platforms. Start looking for the employers that are hiring people and start connecting with them, start calling and communicating with them. If you have an employer that says, okay, come in, you can tell the employer, I already have a visiting visa. Most of them are looking for people who are already here. If the employer knows that you already have a visiting visa, they can tell you, okay, when you come in, give us a call and then we'll see what we can do. That way you know you have a lead. But if nobody is nobody has told you to come in or call us. Nobody has responded to your email while you're still back in your home country. Don't bother buying a flight ticket until you get a lead before you buy your flight ticket. If you don't get a lead, either 1 or 2 or 3 leads, don't bother buying your flight ticket to come to Canada with the hopes of converting from visiting visa to work permit. It's just a waste of resources. Another thing you should be also looking out for if you're hoping to convert from visiting visa to work permit is that you should not concentrate in the city center. Look for the remote areas. Look outside the remote areas where they are looking for people. I have somebody who came in she came in as a visitor. I've never seen a dogged person like this lady, and today she's a permanent resident. She came in as a visitor. She was well prepared. Unfortunately, at the time she came, it was COVID period, and that time there was no policy for people to convert from visiting visa to work permit. But what she did was she traveled from Ontario to Yukon. She got an employer. Unfortunately, the employer withdrew. She left Yukon, went back to Ontario. From Ontario, she went to New Brunswick. But before she left, she was already connecting with all these employers one by one. If the employer does not tell her to come, she will not go. But her base was in Ontario. From Ontario, she was able to get an employer in New Brunswick, and the employer told her to come. She had baking skills that she learned before she came. That's another thing I need to advise you to. Don't just come. You need to have skills that the employers are looking for. If you don't have the skills that the employers are looking for, it's a waste of your time. If you don't have construction skills, if you don't have healthcare skills, if you don't have agricultural skills, these 3 skills or these 3 occupations that are highly in demand and need people, don't waste your time. If you're coming to look for an office job, it's a waste of time. You are just wasting your time as far as I'm concerned. So she had baking skills, and the employer in New Brunswick was looking for a baker, and she connected with the employer. The employer said, come. And that was how she flew to New Brunswick. They gave her the offer. Luckily, the offer had a permanent residence route. So she didn't even apply for work permit direct. She applied for permanent residence direct, from visiting visa to permanent residence direct, and got her permanent residence approved within 3 months. She's very lucky. She's the only person that I know that was able to convert from visiting visa straight to permanent residence direct. So don't just come. You have to plan. You have to plan. You have to do the groundwork before coming. Next question. I heard it's possible to apply for. Okay, no, I've answered this. You said you kept waiting for your attestation letter from Ontario to resume. You didn't get it, deferred to September. So for Ontario, they are prioritizing certain occupations for attestation letters. If you got admission for a business management program, I'm sorry, you might not likely get an attestation letter, except you switch courses, switch to what is in demand, either tech or healthcare, either of these 2 programs. If you're able to switch, then you get an attestation. If you're not able to switch, if you're still under the business management category, it will be hard for you to get an attestation letter. I don't know which website this person is asking for. If you're asking for the Government of Canada website or Job Bank website, is www.jobbank.gc.ca. How do you get a job offer from Nigeria? You have to search for job offers on all platforms, Government of Canada website, which I just mentioned, LinkedIn, Twitter, social media, Facebook groups. You have to search, because that's how you'll be able to get a job offer. Can you work with a tourist visa? No, you cannot work with a tourist visa. But some people do what you call under the table jobs, which is not allowed. It's not a valid thing, but people do under the table jobs. But you cannot work with a tourist visa. You have to get a job offer and convert from tourist visa to a work visa. Okay. What if I don't have enough money for the accommodation in Canada through work route? So if you don't have enough money for accommodation, that means your employer has to mention that they are going to be providing accommodation for you. If they don't mention that, the chances of you getting the visa approved is quite low. You have to negotiate with the employer to be able to provide accommodation for you. Please explain more on the NGO offer and how to apply. So for NGOs, there are lots of NGOs in Canada. It's just for you to check for job opportunities that these NGOs are offering. They don't give LMIAs, or LMIA is not needed for NGO job offers. as long as you're doing something related to the NGO by raising funds, by doing campaigns, awareness campaigns, visibility campaigns, and all of that on behalf of the NGO, it's possible to get a job, such job offers. If you have that experience, you can go ahead and search for such jobs. And if you get a job offer, you can apply for work visa. Are there tech talent pools one can make use of to relocate use the work route? So for the tech talent, you have the express entry route, which has the category-based route that also has the STEM route. That's the STEM category-based. So it's a summary of it is that you have to write IELTS, evaluate your credentials, and all of that. That's number one. Number two, you have the global talent stream, which is strictly for tech people and engineering people. For global talent stream, funny enough, if you get a job offer from any of these organizations that give job offers or any of the organizations, processing time for your work visa is actually 2 weeks under the global talent stream. It's just 2 weeks. You have to get a job offer from a tech company or an engineering company. They must be paying you premium above the minimum requirement they're supposed to pay people. Let's say you can be earning as much as $50 or $60 per hour. Once you get such job offers, the organization themselves will be the one to even process your work visa for you. And it takes 2 weeks. Global Talent Stream takes just 2 weeks, but you have to do the work of searching for such jobs yourself. Any age limit for study permit? No, there's no age limit. If you're 50 years, you want to come and study, you can come. If you're 55, you can also come. The only thing you need to do is you have to position yourself in a province that can help you switch conveniently after studies to a permanent resident. If you're 50 years and above and you go to a province like Ontario, you're shooting yourself in the foot. If you go to a province like British Columbia, except maybe you get a job as a healthcare worker, you're also shooting yourself in the foot. So I usually advise you have to be very careful to choose your province. Don't go to the popular provinces. It's better to go to a province that will help you accelerate to become a permanent resident after studies if you are 50 years and above. Unfortunately, there's no slide. All these things are in my head. I just talk from my head. Sadly, there's no slide. Okay. About trade schools, is it possible to use student loan for trade schools too, for work visa, which are some of the due diligence for work visa? I've already talked about work visa. For trade schools, yes, it's possible to use student loan for trade schools. I would even encourage people coming to study more of the trades, because that's where you have lots of opportunities in terms of converting to permanent residency, especially if you're going to a place like Ontario. They have lots of opportunities for tradespeople in the construction sector, plumber, carpentry. If you have this kind of skills, you can come study such programs, and then it's possible for you to quickly accelerate to become a permanent resident using your trade skills. Is Manitoba, Winnipeg a good place to study? Yes, Manitoba is a good place to study. It's quite affordable, cost effective. You have lots of cost savings compared to Ontario. Okay, so I don't know, there are still...
Yes, yeah, there are still questions.
That agricultural work, what do they really mean? Is it only farming or what, ma? So agriculture is broad. You could come and be a food processing person. You know, when I mean food processing, they must have harvested the food, and then you're the one processing, you're the factory processing and packaging it. That is one. You have other options in agriculture like greenhouse farming, not just farming. You also have people who are in harvesting. All these categories fall into agriculture. Okay, so is it compulsory to have... What was the question now? Is it compulsory? I think I've missed that question. Okay, so what province will you advise for a business management student? For business management, any province or outside Ontario, like let's say Manitoba, Saskatchewan, these provinces, Alberta, These provinces, they also, I would say New Brunswick as well. These provinces, they accommodate business management compared to Ontario if you're looking for provincial attestation letter. In that food processing, do they have age limit? No, there's no age limit for food processing. There's no age limit. Okay, I think I've answered enough questions today. So I'm handing over to you now. Is there any other question?
Yes, I do have some questions. I mentioned earlier that I would have, one or two questions to ask you. Now, you've given us really step-by-step processes. Now, what are some mistakes that applicants usually make that are common mistakes that they make during their application processes?
Common mistakes people make during the application process. So when it comes to Canada, I like to advise people to be very detailed. The reason is this: the visa officers do not have the time to start looking on how your documents are explained. Like, they don't have that time. They have very limited time to make decisions based on the volume of application they receive. So it is your duty to make it easier for them to be able to make a decision, a favorable decision on time for you. So it's your duty to arrange your documents in a proper way that they understand, that follows a sequence that they will understand with an explanation of these documents. Because if you just gather all the documents I talked about and jumble them up and just submit, there's a high chance of them refusing the application because they don't have that time. I mean, you are making the work more cumbersome for them, especially if their own is to spot errors or spot mistakes. So what I tell people is this: organize yourself properly. You have to organize yourself in such a way that if you're providing your proof of funds document, you provide it a clear proof of funds document. So people just take phone and snap their documents. For me, if you're working with me as a client, I don't accept snapped pictures. You have to scan a proper scanned document. So, and it must be clear. It must be a very visible document. If the visa officer does not see what they are, like your proof of funds document, if the figures are not clear to the visa officer, they will refuse it even if you have 100 million in your account, right? They'll refuse it. So your documents, such as your proof of funds, which is a key document, has to be clear and properly scanned. Don't just snap picture of your documents and upload. Those things they don't show any form of organization from your end. And then write a proper letter of explanation, a proper letter that explains the document you're submitting. For a visiting visa, write a proper letter why you are coming to visit Canada, what you intend to do during the period of visit, and then write a list of the documents you're submitting with the application. So if you're organized, there's a higher chances of getting your visa approved. If you're disorganized, if you just jumble things up, you're not submitting clear documents, you're not submitting documents that are organized, there is no letter to explain anything or any documents that you're submitting, the chances that your visa will be approved is very, very low. Secondly, some people do not put in enough details to explain certain amounts of money that enters their accounts. So if you are the type of person that you don't have the funds already stored in your account, you need people to put in maybe 500,000, 1 million today, next 2 million tomorrow. You have to properly explain to the visa officer where these monies are coming from. Because if you don't explain, if you just submit your bank statement like that without explaining where the money is coming from, the application will also be refused. So these are the common mistakes a lot of people make in terms of submitting visa applications. Is there any other question?
Yes. I just saw a good day. So I just had from the chat box. I just submitted. I didn't know if you've seen it. So
no, you can go ahead and ask since because the chat box is mixed up with lots of questions which I must have answered. So I don't think I want to go with the chat box anymore.
Okay. So thank you so much. I'm very grateful for the session and all the infos and the knowledge that you've given. It's so detailed. Thank you. So I saw a post online, and I would like to ask you, your advice on it. So the post says we have an ongoing international mobility program, work permit slot for Canada. It's an open work permit package. It comes with direct job offer and accommodation for 2 years and also renewable. And so there's jobs for skilled and unskilled workers. And you can also work with your discipline field. So, they were advertising those posts, and, I'm a bit skeptical about it. So that's why I wanted to ask, from your own end.
So you have to be, it's good that you're skeptical. Such adverts, run away from them. Mm-hmm. You have to run away from such adverts. They are scammers. They are going to take your money and you won't hear from them again. Some of them, they package it in such a way that, you will not pay anything until you get your visa. Run away from those people as well. They are also scammers. They'll tell you will not pay anything. Meanwhile, they'll ask you for money for, let's say, processing something, or money for visa, or money for all these monies that they're asking from you. They are just part of the money they're just trying to milk from you before they disappear. So run away from such people. There's nothing like that. If you want a job offer, do your job search from the Government of Canada website, which is www.jobbank.gc.ca. That is the authentic website for anything that has to do with job search. There are other job sites like Indeed and Monster, Workopolis. Those are private websites. I cannot vouch or verify any of those adverts jobs that they advertise from those websites. The one I can talk about is the official Government of Canada website. Or you network directly with the employer on LinkedIn, directly with the employers on LinkedIn, or go to the employer's website directly and see the jobs that they've advertised on their website and apply. That way you're dealing directly with the employers, not with a third-party organization that will tell you that there's a job offer open, you can work with any employer or you can work in any field and then you get 2 years work permit. No. Funny enough, they are now restricting work permit time or duration from 12 months to 6 months. So I would recommend that you run away from those group of people.
Thank you so much. I'm very grateful. Thank you. Very grateful.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your question, Jide. One last question, Mrs. Marigate. During the course of the migration journey, people sometimes need support. So what support systems would you recommend, or resource systems would you recommend for individuals that need this support, whether it's financial or otherwise, but most usually financial?
So when you say financial support, you mean support from family members, right? Is that what you're trying to say? So let me understand you clearly. What kind of support?
Yeah, not just family members, maybe organizations that offer support for migrants.
Okay, so maybe I'm not understanding what you mean by organizations that offer support. And is the organizations giving financial support, or they just...
Yes, financial support.
Okay, so, well, I'm much aware that there are organizations that give financial support to beef up people's proof of funds, right? I'm aware of that. But you have to be careful, because if RFCC does a background check, a due diligence check on your bank account, and they discover that the funds are not yours, the funds were gotten from a third-party organization that you did not declare, maybe in form of loan or in form of investment or something like that, there's a chances of them saying it's misrepresentation. Misrepresentation is something you not declaring. It might be something unintentional, right? But sometimes they do these checks, random checks, and they discover that some things are not true, and then they refuse our application or give a 5 years ban in such situations. So you have to be careful. If the organization is a well-known organization that gives financial support, you have to have a conversation with the organization. How do you now narrate what the funds are for? Is it a loan, or is it maybe an investment or something like that? There has to be some form of narration in terms of such supports coming from organizations. For family, of course, it's well known. You can always ask for sorts of funds. You can get your financial support from family members who want to support your application with funds as well. So that one is, I think that one is straightforward.
Thank you so much for answering that question. You've given really detailed and clear explanations to this step-by-step process. Unfortunately, that's all that we can take today. Thank you so much, Ms. Marioge. You've been so helpful. You've shared gems, tips, insightful tips that we can use during our migration journey. In fact, I feel like by July, you should be seeing me in Canada based on the tips that I've gotten from you. It's quite interesting. And I see somebody in the comments saying that the tips have been very, 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 very helpful. And I'm sure people still have questions. The questions never end, but we won't be able to take them now. But Ms. Marioge is a licensed, sorry?
I can take one more question.
She's a licensed migration consultant. So you can always discuss with her. Her Instagram handle is at Canada Info Hub, also on YouTube. Subscribe to her YouTube channel, Canada Info Hub as well. So if you have any questions, you want to do consultation, she's there for you. Go to her page, talk to her. She will give you more of these tips. And for the person who asked if the slides will be available, unfortunately, there are no slides. She's speaking from her head. So, but the recorded version of this event is going to be available on our YouTube and Instagram handles. So also follow JAPA Media on all our social media handles. Yes, we're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Follow us at JAPA Nigeria, JAPANIGERIA on all social media platforms. And if you also want to read more of our articles, latest migration news stories, go to our website, www.japa.com.ng. Once again, thank you so much, Ms. Marioge, for being here. Canada Info Hub, once again, she's on social media. Don't forget to follow her for more tips. And we hope to see you next time whenever we call on you to come to our events to speak and give us more of your gems. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed what you presented to us today. That'll be all. We've drawn the curtains on today's event, but a video of JAPA Media, like we played at the beginning, we'll play again. So if you want to stay to watch that video, you can. But till next time, have yourselves a good night. Goodbye, ma'am. Till next time.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Following us on our social media handles and visiting our website at www.japa.com.ng. We also have our newly launched JAPA Connect app. It connects migrants from all over the world. So in case you just moved to somewhere new and you want to connect with other migrants in your area, you can join our app, install it from the App Store. It's available there so that you can connect with migrants in your area, be friends, and build a community. Thank you so much. Good night.